So Heather, I've got the event live now.
I see it. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
How can you tell?
On the bottom of the screen, I'm guessing it shows just where it says live. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be your view is probably different than mine because I'm a producer, but it should say live in a red circle.
Yes.
Somewhere. Yeah.
It does. Yes, indeed.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank our students and faculty and friends of Dunwoody College to our Pivot Conference. I want to thank our sponsors, Hunt Electric, Guarantee Electric, and J.E. Dunn. Just some quick housekeeping items. Please place your questions in the chat, and I will moderate the questions after Yolanda is done speaking. My name is Heather Gay. I am the Program Manager for Construction Management, Facilities Management, and Civil Surveying. And I'd like to introduce Yolanda McIntosh. Yolanda McIntosh is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Associated General Contractors of Minnesota, the state's largest and longest established commercial construction trade association. McIntosh is responsible for leading efforts in building more intentional and inclusive initiatives to assist member contractors in establishing equity in business cultures and providing greater opportunity for diverse populations in the commercial construction industry. McIntosh possesses a wealth of industry experience with an advanced education and employment history in the public sector, and most recently with a large commercial road and bridge contractor. McIntosh has been a leading voice for more diversity and inclusion throughout the trades in the Twin Cities and was selected as a finalist for Finance and Commerce Top Women in Construction 2020 for her outstanding service to the profession. This was the inaugural year of the Finance and Commerce Top Women in Construction, and I'm very honored to introduce Yolanda. Please give your attention to Yolanda now for her presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Heather, thank you so much for the warm introduction, and a special thank you to Dunwoody's president, Rich Wagner, to Bridget Reynolds. Let me tell you something. Bridget is the voice at the table for each one of you. She is so passionate about this work. When I was speaking to her last night, I almost asked her for an application myself. I was ready to return to school, you all. I want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you to the faculty and to the educators, but especially to you, the current students and alumni, as you bridge the gap and pave the way for those who will come after you. Before we get started, I want to elaborate a little further on regarding a brief overview as far as the Associated General Contractors of Minnesota. We are a nonprofit professional trade organization, and as Heather has touched on, we have 100 years in service. We celebrated our centennial in 2019. Now, I know Dunwoody celebrated theirs in 2014, so you have us beat by a few years. Nevertheless, Minnesota was the first recognized chapter of AGC of America, whose membership now stands at 27,000 nationwide. Our members include general contractors, specialty contractors, and affiliated businesses. But more than that, AGC also has a foundation. The AGC of Minnesota Foundation has a standing scholarship donation that we issue on an annual basis to Dunwoody. The annual gift supports scholarship awards for individuals with specific allocations to women and people of color. As a result of our commitment to DEI through our donations, along with others over the years, we have noticed a significant uptick in women enrollment and a gradual uptick in students of color at Dunwoody. We know there's more work to be done, and we believe that without our support, Dunwoody is up for the challenge. And although we noticed the strides that Dunwoody has made and continues to make, AGC of Minnesota also noticed that while we were donating to the cause and encouraging our membership to be intentional about hiring diverse candidates, we were not representing what we were asking others to do. So over the last 2 years, AGC of Minnesota has worked diligently to not only provide a seat at the table, but a voice to the ones seated at the table. That is how my position came to be. So a little background about me. I joined AGC of Minnesota just 4 months ago. However, don't be confused. This position is not as a result of 2020 and the civil unrest that we all witnessed. Instead, it was the work behind the scenes. This position was in the process of being created since about 2018. So it was about 2 years in the making, just a little over 2 years. I am considered a two-time trailblazer in the construction industry with 20 years of experience, working experience, that is. My education includes an Associates of Arts degree, a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership, and a master's degree in strategic leadership, all from my alma mater, Bethel University. But that's not how my story started. My story started like this. How dare you care about me? 'Cause I ain't nothing. And you must be lower than that to care. An excerpt from Nikki Rosa by Nikki Giovanni. Growing up, they said I would never amount to nothing. And I believe them. That is, until educators at my alma mater challenged me to expand my worldview beyond my personal lens of experience. They encouraged me to envision a limitless possibilities, in fact, whereas at Dunwoody, you were born to lead. Well, at Bethel, I was chosen to lead. Matthew chapter 22, verse 14. It was December 28, 2011, when I made a decision that would alter the trajectory of my life for years to come. On that day, I made the decision to ask for a divorce, file for bankruptcy, and I decided to return to school. As a single mother of 3 while working full-time, I started Bethel in 2012. During the first 3 weeks of starting school, I was so nervous. Listen, y'all, I was so nervous that I drove over the curb in an attempt to enter the parking lot. But that was then. Today, as a result of obtaining an education while working on myself and landing and building a prosperous career in construction, not only for me, but for my children and for those coming behind me, I am no longer driving over the curb. Instead, I'm driving a Lincoln. But it wasn't easy. I needed help along the way. I had educators who traveled the journey with me by believing in me and encouraging me when I wanted to give up because my world felt like it was closing in. The educators and faculty made a difference. And the construction industry provided opportunities that far exceeded my expectations. But believe you me, I worked hard for it. As the years progressed, it was hard not being there for my children. As my 2 older sons grew up and it was just my daughter and me, I took her to class every week for the first 3.5 years. And as I plowed through my education and progressed in the construction industry, I was required to travel, which meant there were times when she was home alone, raising herself while under the age of 12. I was making really good money, but it came at a cost. The 6 years that I lost with my daughter, I cannot buy back. The good news, she hung in there, and in a couple of weeks, she will be 17. And guess what? I call her mother. And as far as I'm concerned, I now work for her. As you gain your specialty skills, and that's your what, for the construction industry while at Dunwoody, I challenge you to ask yourself the following. Who am I becoming? Am I willing to pay the price? If so, at what cost? And how am I preparing to serve the world? Am I developing empathy and being open to hearing another's perspective without judgment? Am I learning, or have I learned to see past negative outward expressions in order to empathize with another's inward turmoil? It's these traits that the construction industry overall is lacking, which is one reason why the disparity in terms of diversity is so great. In conjunction with your vocational specialty, it's traits such as these that Dunwoody seeks to instill in you. So don't miss it. It's what bridges the gap. It's what you were born to do. As you achieve your education with credentials and begin your career in the construction industry, as you raise your economic status for you and your family, will you stop there? Or will you build a legacy? A legacy of honoring those who contributed to giving you a boost up, whether through scholarships, informal mentoring by those you already know in the industry, or from faculty and educators who may have taken extra time to work a little longer to help you raise your skills from mediocre to excellence. Look around your world. Who's missing from the table? In other words, once you land your dream job in the construction industry, will you remember to offer up opportunities afforded to you to others? As for me, based on my faith, my personal and educational experiences, I do this work. I seek to give back to those who seemingly do not have a voice in the construction industry. I also seek to work outside the industry by being an example for youth who are at risk, youth in foster care, youth who are homeless or living in an abusive home, youth who are like I once was, without hope, without a vision, and without a voice. What about you? Will you reach back and provide an opportunity to others? In closing, in fact, wait a minute. Will you reach back and provide an opportunity to others for those who don't look like you, sound like you, but who envision an opportunity to provide a better life for themselves and for their families and for the generations coming after them? In closing, we all need one another if we're going to survive as a nation, if we are going to survive as a human race. I envision the possibilities of the world being a better place, better than it is today, and the part I play in making it happen. But I cannot do it alone. I cannot do it without you. So will you join me in embracing change? On behalf of AGC of Minnesota and the AGC of Minnesota Foundation, we are proud to support such a stellar institute like Dunwoody. Why? It's easy. Because of you. Be blessed. I turn the controls back over to Heather.
Yolanda, I want to thank you so much for an inspirational talk this morning, and it is a perfect way to kick off our conference. Couple questions that I have for you. What is something that has surprised you about working with AGC?
The support that I have received, and thank you for the question, the support I have received in the last 4 months have been phenomenal. I am so accustomed to working in a silo, which means in my previous employment, I was very isolated. And so I always had to make all the decisions and come up with the great ideas. AGC is not like that. AGC, we work as a team and we come together. And I actually found that to be uncomfortable, and I had to make the adjustment. And it was an adjustment. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because I'm learning that I'm still growing. I'm learning that I have to stretch myself. And what was uncomfortable for me, I put into practice now. And AGC the staff there have been phenomenal. And so, yeah, I would say it has been support on a whole nother level that I'm not accustomed to, but that I am so grateful for.
Thank you, Yolanda. You spoke a little bit about finding mentorship through your faculty at Bethel and colleagues, and I'm curious what advice you would give students as they're looking for mentors for their professional careers.
I would first say, don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself. Don't think that that mentor has to look like you. They don't have to have your same ethnicity. They do not need to be same gender. It needs to be someone that you trust and someone that genuinely cares about your success. I have spent the last couple of days with Bridget, and I'm telling you, I'm ready to move into her house, y'all. So I know that the type of faculty and educators that you have, they're available. Don't be afraid to ask for help. When I started school, when I started back in 2012, I had this chip on my shoulder. One, I was an older adult. Two, what could you tell me that I didn't already know? Well, duh, I wouldn't have needed to go to school if I knew it all. And so I had to work through that process, and it was very humbling for me, because I've always carried myself with such a sense of pride when it came to knowing what I know. And so I would say, be vulnerable. That doesn't mean you've got to put out all your business, but get the help where you can. And it will only help you in your journey, not only in the workplace, but in your personal development.
Thank you so much. As you were speaking about your kids, I was curious now with your oldest, I think, being 17.
My youngest.
Your youngest being 17.
Yes.
What career areas have they expressed interest in, having seen their mom be in the construction industry?
My daughter wants to do business. And so we're moving along in that pathway. I'm gonna be honest with you. The construction industry, it's hard. It's great money, but it's hard. Is it worth it? Absolutely. but you need a strong support system. You need a family support system. And that could be your biological family, that can be your school, but that can be fellow students. You really need a strong support system because the challenges are, for me, it required a lot of my time. It required a lot of my time. And so for my daughter, she's doing business. No one wants to do construction because it costs so much. So my children don't want to do construction. My oldest son he just turned 28 2 weeks ago, and he's a bodybuilder. He's also, what is he? He was in the Army National Guard, and he does security for federal contracts, excuse me. My middle son, who I call my prayer case. If you have more than one sibling, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So my prayer case son, he works for a company that makes natural body soaps and, excuse me, natural shampoos and conditioners. And so although he is still finding his way, he's making it happen. You have to remember, I went back to school as an older adult, technically, compared to the students. And prior to me going back to school, I'm gonna be honest with you and transparent because we've got a couple of minutes. Because of where I came from and my upbringing, my hope was that my children would just graduate high school. If they could just graduate high school, that was a great accomplishment to me. And so to see my youngest daughter, who's gone through this whole journey with me, to want to take it a step further is phenomenal to me.
Oh, that's great. We had an amazing question come in. What is some advice to other parents going to school? For example, how do you balance parenting and your schoolwork?
There was no balance. I had to practice leverage, which meant sometimes school got more of the attention than my daughter did. And it cost me. And I'm not saying that you should stop, and I'm certainly not saying that you should go to the extreme that I went through, with her being left at home or going to classes with me and stuff. Once again, you need a support system. And trying to leverage that it's going to be the best transition. Otherwise, there's no real balance. At least it wasn't for me. Something had to give from time to time. And I was so adamant about getting the education that I took her to school with me for 3.5 years, the first 3.5 years. But she's the better for it, of course.
Thank you. You, just so you know, you wouldn't be the first parent that's brought their kids to campus over at Dunwoody either. So many of our students are non-traditional and have families and have to figure out that balance.
It was not easy, and I just want to piggyback on that. It was not easy, and sometimes I thought I wasn't going to make it. I really did.
I can understand that. My final question to you, and thank you so much for joining us today, is how should our students get involved in AGC?
Ooh, that's a great question. Our association, we make up like eight. We're about eight. We are about eight employees. However, we have a blueprint program, and I cannot cover it. I know it's time for you all to stop. I cannot cover it, but we have a blueprint program, and what I would recommend is your students or the person asking the question that you follow up with me so I can connect you to our membership director, so she can tell you more about that blueprint, because I believe we've had Dunwoody students in the past attend, and that would be one way for you to get involved.
That's fantastic. I have put the link for the AGC website on the chat function for Q&A. So students, if you're interested in checking out the AGC website, please let us know. We have in the past had an AGC student chapter, and we're always open to doing that again. So if you're interested, please reach out to me and I will help get that started. With that, I want to thank everyone for participating and attending this session. Yolanda, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope the rest of you enjoy a fantastic day with our career fair and speakers throughout the rest of this morning and afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.